Hey, welcome to Patrick and BJ Talk Real Estate. Let's go.
All right, what do we got today?
Okay, so I'm going to read the headline and then we're going to talk about this article. So this is from Global News. Okay, so the headline reads, "Should Canada ditch the mortgage stress test? What are the experts saying?"
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So let's.
It's kind of a give and take, right? Like it has a good purpose for it.
Yeah, so that we all understand, for those of you that don't, or maybe you're not in Canada, the stress test was introduced to help buyers essentially be able to accommodate higher interest rates if they go up. So you, regardless of what home you're going to buy, you have to qualify at 2 points above the interest rate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right.
so it's intended to be like a safeguard if you
Yeah.
become
Right.
if the interest rates go up
Right.
either on renewal
Yeah.
or on a fixed variable or a
Right.
variable. Yeah.
So basically, you have to qualify at minimum at 5.25.
Yeah, you should
Or-
be able to afford if it goes up.
Right.
Yeah.
Or at 2 points above the current rate.
Yeah.
All right. So, despite the recent interest rate cuts, the Canadian real estate market remained slow this summer. This has prompted some in the industry to call for an end to the stress test. So, Christopher Alexander, he's the president of RE/MAX Canada, is among those calling for an end to the stress test. Now, here's an interesting perspective, what he says here. First-time homebuyers have all but disappeared from the marketplace, and I think that's largely due to the stress test, which is still in place. It was introduced in 2017 in anticipation of rising interest rates. He goes on to say here, hang on one second. And we talked about that already. He goes on to say some other stuff. We'll come to it. But he's basically saying that the stress test hits the potential first-time buyers the hardest.
Right, but they've hardly left the market.
Yeah, I guess they're saying that these are among back when the interest rates were higher, even though they're still higher, but
Yeah.
they're not as high as they were. I believe it was BMO that did the study or the survey, and they came out with that number: 70% of buyers are staying on the sidelines,
yeah.
waiting for interest rates to adjust.
So we know, like, it's not a secret that we have less sales than we've had before. Like, it's lower than the 10-year average.
Yeah.
And this is part of the cycle. You know, it's not a crash. It's an adjustment. I think I think they're throwing around this term of like a real estate bubble or a real estate crash.
Sure.
Really freely without understanding what a crash would actually look like. Like,
Yeah.
it would be complete disaster. Like demand for homes would drop from the market.
Right.
The thing is, we need homes.
Yeah.
Like, it's a necessity. It's not a tulip bulb.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
It's not something that we
Yeah.
don't need, that we just automatically speculate that somebody else will pay more in the future. You still need a place to live. And
Yeah.
even if the prices came down and I don't sell my house, I didn't lose anything.
Right.
Right? The prices are up way more than 10 years ago.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. But I would say this: I am always, in general, I know this is a very carte blanche statement.
Yeah, go for
but
it.
I am generally in favor of anything that gets the government's hands off of the economy and off of the individual.
yeah, agreed. And the statement's a little bit like, first-time homebuyers even reported at the first quarter of this year, the number of first-time homebuyers was 46% of all of the residential sales.
Sure. Yeah.
Investors were 30%, basically,
Right.
give or take. I'm rounding numbers now because I've read different reports. Like, first-time homebuyers were 50%,
Yeah.
46%, and another report was just like slightly higher than 50%. So half the market is first-time homebuyers. They've hardly disappeared, but we do have less of them because the overall sales are down.
Right. So let's continue on. In March, the Competition Bureau recommended dropping the stress test requirement for some borrowers, arguing that it limits Canadians' ability to shop around for a better interest rate. Interesting.
It's the qualifying rate, like not the you qualify at whatever rate that they stress test you at.
Sure, yeah.
But that's not the one you get. How does that stop you from getting
Well,
or
so here,
shopping for a better rate?
yeah. So here's the other quote from
That's interesting.
from Alexander. He's the president of Remax Canada. With further cuts on the horizon, I think it's time for policymakers to consider pausing the stress test. First-time homebuyers are being forced to essentially qualify at 7%, which is
Right, it's going to diminish their buying power
right.
as a first-time home buyer.
Which presumably, depending on which market you're in, is going to affect your ability to purchase in that market or what you
enter.
purchase. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's what he's saying. But wait for it now, because
Uh-oh.
here's the flip side. I had to chuckle when I read this one. And okay, Clay Jarvis, real estate expert and spokesperson for NerdWallet Canada, said that while getting rid of the stress test might help real estate firms sell more homes, it could lead to unintended consequences. This is already going in no man's land, right? But let's go. It's going to drive home prices back up into the stratosphere, and we don't need that. That's ridiculous, first of all, but I'll say why in a minute.
Okay, I'm waiting for it.
Let's say we turned off the stress test tomorrow. Well, all of a sudden, everybody's mortgages get easier to qualify for, but that's just instant competition. And what happens when the market is competitive? You see bidding wars again. All of a sudden, we will see prices just getting pushed up further and faster than we've seen in the last few years. So now they also talk about maintaining checks and balances, so it's not a one size fits all policy. The Alexander, so he's the Remax guy. His thing is the stress test might make more sense in Alberta, but in other markets where housing market is challenged, we could consider different policies that are tailor-made for that area. So first of all, there's two parts to this. So let's back up. Number one, to say that we keep the stress test in place as a way to control the economy. This is what the NerdWallet guy is saying.
I'm sort of confused with the whole understanding of this, but go ahead. Yeah.
Well, so he's saying we don't remove the stress test because the real estate market is going to take off again, and housing prices are going to go up if you remove the stress test.
But he's talking about like controlling the economy with the stress test.
That's correct. So
if we have more sales, we have more houses being built.
Right.
Right. Like real estate drives a huge portion of the economy.
To me, it just makes me shake my head.
That's why I'm confused.
Yeah,
like,
right.
These things
100%,
don't match, right?
100%. So whoever, I don't agree with that at all. That you're thinking that you're somehow controlling or putting a damper on the real estate industry and keeping prices down. And that it's all, one of the things they said here is it's going to put, what did he say? Yeah, it's going to put home prices back up into the stratosphere, and we don't need that. Well, home prices are going to continue to go up.
Canadians have and continue to have so much equity. I'm not saying first-time home buyers, but like the longer you're in the market, the more equity you build up, either paying it down, even if the market goes up and down and up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
In the long run, with desirable markets, this is not every single market. A lot of markets have been flat for a really long time. If somebody takes 5 minutes to look at Realtor.ca and go look at let's see what the maritime provinces look like, or what is houses in Saskatoon or somewhere, right? Like there's a huge range in prices for places, right? So what are you going to do? You're going to take the stress test off of these other these other more affordable places and drive the prices up.
Yeah.
And people are leaving the big centers already from the Greater Vancouver area, Greater Toronto area. They're leaving BC, leaving Ontario to places like Alberta and maritime provinces and Quebec too. So what are you they're gonna move there, and then you're gonna drive those prices up? Well,
so now you're going to bring the stress test over there as a means of trying to control the economy. It just to me,
either remove it here or remove it there or keep it in one place. That gets really confusing.
Yeah,
What's it gonna do?
And the other thing to me is, well, let's add another level of bureaucracy to what we're introducing here. And who's going to manage that? That's the government that's going to take care of managing that then? And who makes the decision on what market has the stress test and which market doesn't?
It depends who needs votes.
Yeah, right?
Right?
So,
So-
I had to shake my head when I read this. I was like, yeah, I am personally in favor of the stress test being done away with.
Altogether.
Yeah.
Like all markets.
Just, yes, because, and like I said, that's just me. I am not in favor of government involvement in the economy, or I'm in favor of as little government involvement as is necessary to keep everything in order.
How much does the stress test affect like qualifying? Like, does it take $75,000? Like, the higher the money, the more buying power you lose. The lower the money, the less effect it has, because it's a percent. It's not a
Yeah.
flat rate, right?
But if you're looking to qualify at 7% instead of 5%,
Yeah.
that, again, for the first-time home buyer, it means more, I think, or maybe for somebody who's looking to upgrade. I know people that were looking to upgrade from, let's say, a condo to a townhouse. That once the stress test was introduced, they said we can't do it. We're gonna have to
close.
we're gonna have to stay in the condo for a couple more years or whatever the case might be.
Yeah, well, you know what? A lot of people are leaving expensive metropolitans for more affordable and other opportunities for work.
Yeah.
Where it is driving prices up in, let's say it's like Calgary or Alberta or Edmonton. So it is having an effect on those economies as people go there, but they all go through these kind of cycles.
Trust me, I lived through, and I grew up in Edmonton, so I lived through the late 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and early 2000s. So I saw what the national energy policy did to the oil industry, and lived through the double-digit interest rates on, like, people were like almost 20% on mortgages, and saw what that did to the economy in Edmonton, especially because so much of Edmonton is affected, or was at that time affected, by the oil field and by what's going on in Fort Mac and stuff. And so I saw all of that. I saw it go down and then come back up again before we left there. And so I can tell you, there's nobody who went through that downtime that said, "Yay, let's do that again."
Right, but I don't think like this, if you remove the stress test, that we're going to have a immediate inverse relationship with prices.
I agree.
No, it's not going to be immediate, and the reason is like we're on the COVID shopping spree hangover. People have bought their houses.
Yeah.
They're going to stay put now for a little while, right?
5 years.
And there's always going to be new people coming into the market,
Yeah.
and it's going to be a steady climb again of steady sales.
Yes.
It hasn't crashed. It's adjusted.
Yeah.
It's not even close to the number of sales that was in like 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
We're on average, I think, the national number I came up with July was, I think it was 22%. So we have just less than 5 months of inventory.
Yeah.
This isn't even close to 2008, 2009 when we were selling only 10%. So we're doing twice as good as the worst time I can remember. It's not really that bad, right?
Yeah.
And anything can still happen, but I don't think this is going to really leave a mark. It just might help some more first-time home buyers. And there's a huge push to build more homes. I don't know if that's gonna really happen, but at least the governments are trying to be encouraging to build more homes.
Sure.
But they gotta sell, or they won't build more.
Or
right?
or else you're gonna have Toronto's condo situation.
All the trades will be busy building affordable housing with taxpayer monies.
And
Did I say that out loud?
I think you did.
I think the trades are still going to be okay generally.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be taxpayer, and you know how those go. Like, we'll give you a quote to win the bid, and then we'll have over budget on all the projects, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And then we'll rent it out to you at full market rate or even more.
Yeah.
And we'll call it affordable housing.
There you go. So, you know what, that's it for today, but I'm going to wrap back to this headline, which is, what are the experts saying about the stress test? I am saying get rid of it. And that to think that it somehow is helping keep prices down, or the removal of it is going to cause the housing prices to skyrocket.
Yeah.
I think that's I don't agree with that. How's that?
Let us know what you think. Will the prices go up if they decide to remove this stress test, or will it be business as usual?
All right. See ya.